Welcome YouTube to The Financial Twins. I'm Mark. And I'm James. And today we're going to talk about our 6 steps on how to start building your wealth. What does it take to become a millionaire? Inherited wealth? Lots of luck? While some of these can be true, none of them by themselves can be true. We've all heard stories of people who get really lucky winning the lottery and a year later they have no money, or people who have spent their inherited money all on cars and who have nothing left in the end. So what does it take to become a millionaire, even if lucky people can't do it? The answer is the right mentality. It's the mentality of thinking with the end in mind. It's the why. Why do you want to retire? Why do you want this freedom of money? To be a millionaire, you have to change your mindset. If you want to learn how to be a millionaire, you have to learn how to manage your wealth. Otherwise, you end up like the lottery winner who can't manage it and spends it all. Let's talk through some steps that we think are critical to managing your money. Number 1, make a budget. Make a budget. Find out how much money you are bringing in every month and how much is going out every month. Ask yourself, what can I do better? Do I need to go on vacation 5 times a year? Do I have to eat out every other day? How much faster would I reach my financial goals if I didn't buy a cup of coffee from Starbucks and just made my own from home? Once you know how much extra money you have at the end of the month, you should try to maximize it. What can you sacrifice now that will rapidly propel you forward? If you were only saving $200 a month, you getting an extra $200 would double the speed you could reach your goals. It doesn't matter if you make $10,000 a year or $10 million. Everyone needs to know how much money is coming in and how much is going out if they want to be better at managing their money. Number 2, have a small emergency fund. You might have realized he said small emergency fund. A fully funded emergency fund is usually 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. The small emergency fund should be something like $1,000 in saving account. This money should be very liquid in that you can get it as soon as you need it and it not be locked up in some investment. For some, $1,000 isn't much at all, and they might already have that. That's great, you can move on to the next step. But for a large number of people out there, they have never saved $1,000 in their lives. This is the first big milestone of many that you will cross. The reason why it's small is that you can feel progress and quickly make your first steps. The next reason is that in actuality, it is an uncomfortably small savings. This motivates us to get through the steps faster to get a fully funded emergency fund. We believe that if you're single and have no kids, $1,000 is good enough place that if something happens, you can cover most things. If you have kids or are married, bringing this number higher to $2,000 or $3,000 might make more sense. But again, this isn't designed to be a comfortable savings, only a temporary to get you through this next step, which is number 3, pay off bad debt. We believe there is a big difference between good debt and bad debt. How we break down the differences is good debt is growing your wealth, while bad debt is hindering that growth. An example of good debt versus bad debt would be buying a house that grows in value over time that renters pay for all the expenses. Bad debt would be a new car at 10% interest. A new car will lose 10% of its value once you drive off the lot. And every year that you drive it, it will just continue to depreciate in value. Cars lose 50 to 70% of their worth within the first 5 years of owning it. That means you would be paying interest on an asset that is consistently going down in value. If you only make $40,000 a year and have a $20,000 car, in 5 years it will be worth half as what it is now, at $10,000. You effectively just lost $10,000 while paying interest to hold this depreciating asset the whole time. You can see how if you're only making $40,000 or $50,000, the price of that car is going down so fast that you can't build your wealth faster than it's going down. Depending on your situation, I would recommend different things. If you're really sick of debt and want it off your shoulders, then pay it all off and become officially debt-free. This might take some time, but it's a great feeling debt-free. That being said, in some cases, it might make more sense to move into the next step before all debt is gone. If you're financially intentional and have something like student loans at a very small interest, like 3%, then you can ask yourself, can you invest and grow money faster than 3%? In most cases, it's yes. Where exactly that line is up to you and your personal choice. I personally don't have any debt besides my house. I bought my phone and my car outright. This keeps my income more free and means I'm able to invest more. The only debt I have is my house. Besides that, I'm 100% debt-free. I do have student debt. I have $20,000 at 3% interest. Even though I do have this debt, buying my first duplex will progress me so quickly that with the extra money I save, I can put that into my student loan and pay it off quicker, and be building my net worth faster at the same time. I'll be saving close to an additional $600 a month that I can then use to pay off my debt faster. So it makes sense for me to save up for the house, have some more for reserves in case anything goes wrong, and then continue paying off my student loans. What debt to pay off first? This depends a lot on the person. The most mathematical best way is to pay off the highest interest loan first and work your way down from the highest interest to the lowest. While this is the most efficient way, it is not always the most effective way. Some people who do this might have a large loan with high interest that just takes too long to pay off, and then they get emotionally burnt out and eventually stop it altogether. The plan that has the most success is to pay off the lowest loan amount first, regardless of interest. If you have a small credit card of just a few $100s, pay that off. You will have more emotional traction paying it off this way, and you'll overcome these small hills first instead of trying to pay off a huge mountain. This also frees up money. By paying off these smaller loans, you will have a little bit more money in a month to use to pay off the rest now that you don't have those small loan payments. This is often referred to as the debt snowball. These two ways to pay off are really up to your personal type and how disciplined you are. Number 4, fully fund your emergency fund. Now is when we increase our small emergency fund into a full emergency fund. Usually 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, depending on your situation and what makes you feel comfortable. If you have 3 months worth of expenses and that makes you stress over the what if something happens, then go higher. We don't recommend going much higher than 6 months unless you have a very good reason to justify having so much money not invested. If you are single, your expenses might be very small, so 3 months to you could be only $2,000 or $3,000. We highly recommend that you have at least $5,000 as a baseline emergency fund. If you're a couple living extremely cheap, we recommend doubling that number to $10,000 as a minimum. The reason for this is, while your monthly expenses might be so low that it's easy to live on smaller amounts, things can happen outside of your month to month that are very expensive. Let's say your car breaks down and you need a new one. You break a leg and you can't go to work and you need to pay medical bills. A family member unexpectedly passes away and you need to fly across the country and take some time off work. Life happens, and you should be prepared for it as much as possible. This emergency fund will turn normal emergencies into inconveniences. I remember a few years ago needing an oil change. I went to a couple different car shops to find the cheapest one. They quoted me $28 at the time. I kept looking for a cheaper place and eventually paid $26 because I thought $28 was too expensive. This wasn't because I was trying to be cheap. This was because I didn't have the money for a $28 oil change. Now, a few years later, I still vividly remember paying for that exact amount. The one oil change felt like it was an end-of-the-world emergency because it was all the money I had. Now, years later, my wife needed to get her car fixed. It was something like $600 or $800. I don't even remember what it was specifically because it wasn't an end-of-the-world emergency. It was just inconvenient. We had the money saved up, and it was something that needed to get fixed. It wouldn't have mattered if it was a $2,000 bill. I had enough money in my emergency fund to pay it off instantly. Spending money on necessary things no longer feels like an emergency. They are just an inconvenience because I have to refill my emergency fund. Number 5, invest your money to retire and become financially independent. Our favorite subject. This really depends on what stage of life you're in and when you want to be financially independent. Financial independence is when you have enough cash flowing investments that it can pay for all of your monthly expenses. You are no longer dependent on having a job. You can retire and live any life you want because your expenses are paid for. What you need to figure out is, how much money do you need to retire? This number is different for everyone. Some say you should put 10% of your income in retirement, some say 15% of your money. To figure this out, think of what your yearly expenses will be when you want to retire. That is how much money your investments will have to bring in to make you financially independent. For example, let's say you spend $3,000 a month right now on expenses, and you are 25, and you want to be financially independent by 35. You are relatively healthy, so you don't have any medical bills you would expect at 35. So your budget will be very similar to your current $3,000 a month. This would mean that in 10 years, you need $3,000 a month. That's $36,000 a year before counting inflation. If you can have assets that produce that much income, you can become financially independent. Now the question is, what investments can produce such returns? Learning how compound interest works is a great tool. Check out our video on compound interest by clicking the box above, where we cover compound interest in depth. To go over a couple options quickly, the default investment plan that many have is investing in the S&P 500 index fund. This is a stock that has many other stocks inside it. Historically, in the past 30 years, the S&P 500 has an average of 10% return on investment per year. Some years are more and some years are less. For our example, let's say it grows 10% a year. To see how this would allow you to become financially independent, let's say you have $1 million in stocks that grow 10% a year. That $1 million turns into $1.1 million. That's $100,000 in profits in 1 year. If we only take out 40% of what grew, so $40,000 every year, that would leave $60,000 in the investment to keep beating inflation and keep growing forever. So, in this theory, you could live for the rest of your life off that $1 million. You could get $40,000 a year, which would be enough to pay all of your expenses and make you completely financially independent. The fun part is finding investments that beat the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is a good default plan, but maybe you're not afraid of doing active work and you want to do something that would produce much higher results. Or maybe you're willing to take higher risk options like investing into cryptocurrency for potentially higher returns. What I want to do is be able to retire within 5 years. To do that, I need $6,000 a month for me and my wife. I want to be able to not have to work, being able to spend time with my family and take them to places without needing to worry about money and see my future kids grow up. Because of this, my wife and I invest nearly 65% of our monthly income every single month. We could be enjoying our money right now and buying things like new cars and going on fancy vacations, but instead we're taking sacrifices now so that in the future we can have assets that can make us financially independent in 5 years. It is a lot easier right now to work more and save more than it will be in a few years when we start having kids. What we are doing is buying houses. We bought a house using an FHA loan using only 3.5% down. We will do that one more time in the next few months, then every year buy another duplex, moving into it using only 15% down. Any extra money we can save above that down payment will be used to buying our next investment property. Every time we buy another house, it will increase our yearly income, making it even easier to buy the next property. If everything goes the way I want it to, within the next 5 years, I should have something close to 7 houses worth $3 million altogether with around $1 million equity. These houses will produce something close to $8,000 to $10,000 a month in cash flow, depending on if they appreciate the amount I suspect. If you would like to see a video of me breaking down on how I got these numbers, comment below asking for it. Now, owning houses is more work than just putting money into stocks, but the returns can be much higher, which is why we invest into houses. When trying to decide how much you should invest, it really depends on your goals. If you just want a passive investment and don't mind working until 65, then stocks might be a good option for you, and I would recommend putting 10 to 15% of your income a month. But if you really want to be financially independent as fast as possible, you should be spending time trying to figure out what is the highest producing investments. Number 6, better manage your wealth. Now that you can make a budget and know how to grow your money, you're finally at the phase of managing your wealth. This may not sound like a hard thing, but this is the reason why so many lottery winners go broke, why football players who make millions a year stop playing and become homeless. Getting money isn't easy, and managing it is even harder. What we recommend is building your team, people who can help you make good financial choices. Speak with a financial advisor on what they would recommend where to put your money, and talk to a real estate agent and do the same. Ask several of your successful friends, hey, if you have $1 million to invest, where would you put it? Don't listen to just what one person says. Think of it critically and why those investments will do good. Read books and listen to podcasts of millionaires and what they do with their money. Some people say the housing market is going to crash. We see the videos online all the time. But in all the research we've seen and read, we're confident the housing market will keep on rising. This isn't because we're ignoring these videos, it's because we have studied our assets and done our best to understand what's making it grow, and seeing that pattern continue is what gives us the confidence it will keep on growing. Personal finances is just that, personal. There have been several times in this video where we have said, it depends. This is because finances are not a one-size-fits-all solution. There are a lot of factors that go into people's individual lives that might make one plan work really well while the others do not. And please, if you get to the point in life that you become financially independent, be charitable. Share your wealth to a good cause that makes a difference, whether it's a small local family that you want to help or a big national fundraiser. Don't forget to give money and be charitable. Teach what you have learned and pass it on. That's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm curious, what financial step are you on? If you ever want some advice or want some help making a budget, feel free to reach out to us at thefinancialtwins@gmail.com or leave a comment below. We really love talking with you guys. Thanks for watching.